If I could ask everybody, go ahead and turn your mics on.
On?
Yes.
How do we know they're on?
Green light.
Okay,
Yeah, testing.
About a few seconds away from starting here.
Clock, 3:30.
Meeting is hereby called to order. This is the Woodland Park Board of Review meeting for the 21st of December at 3:30 p.m. Mr. Burgess, would you call roll, please, sir?
Yes, sir. Mac McVicker,
Here,
Jeff Cahill,
Here.
Derek Carpenter,
here.
Patrick Vitaliano,
Here.
and for the record, Jeff Smith was unable to attend today.
okay, and is Karen joining via,
She is joining via Zoom. She can't be as a panelist, but she can hear us and she can speak freely.
okay. Thanks for joining us, Karen.
You're welcome, sir.
If everybody would join me, please, in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you're in active duty or an honorably discharged vet, you may salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Next item up is approval of the minutes from our meeting on September 21st. And I look to our proofreader, Mr. Cahill.
Well, having reviewed everything, it looked fine to me, and I was derelict in not being at the last meeting, so if anyone else has something to bring up, who I have emotional attachment to what was said, I'd invite them to.
I will move approval.
Here a second.
I will second that.
Well, we have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes from September the 21st. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And learning from past times when I waited to do this, I'm going to sign this one right now.
Could I ask a question relative to what you just approved?
Yes,
I noticed that in the overview that there was a utility sink that was trying to be protected by awarding the last participant or a variance. I never saw a picture of that in the photographs that were supplied. Was that something that was oversaw or just wasn't photographed in one of the lists?
So Mr. Spock, the applicant, he had provided the photos for the application. So apparently he just did not capture that utility sink in these photos.
Just curious.
good catch, Mr. Cagle. So we have no consent items, no complaints. We're probably the only board in this town that has no complaints.
We went through those 6 months ago.
Yes. Down to item number 6, variance or appeals hearing. Variance VAR 2023-09 B 1400 Masters Drive. Owners are Lewis William, aka Bill, and Crystal Wysong Spock. Did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Request a variance to table 402.1.3 of the 2021 International Energy Conservation Code to omit the garage insulation and heat loss calculation requirements for installation of a natural gas fueled heating unit in the owner's residential attached garage. The Spock's home was issued a CO in 2005. So, Mr. Spock, we'll let you go first.
If you wouldn't mind picking up the microphone. Thank you, sir.
Can you hear me? Huh?
Yes.
Yes, I'd like to install heat in my garage. Just for the odd times where I might need to work on a vehicle in there in the afternoon. It wouldn't be heated all the time. It'd be heated maybe one afternoon a week, maybe 2 afternoons a week, and that would be it.
So I guess you know, you are not the first person to have come before us with a similar type request. Who is going to install the gas line, the electric, and the heater itself?
I haven't contacted any contractors yet. I wanted to have approval before I proceeded forward with it.
Smart move. We'll throw it open to the rest of the board. Any questions for Mr. Spock?
Well, I'm a little curious on a couple of items. Just one in particular, I noticed a lot of Romex hanging from the ceiling to some low-hanging fluorescent lights suspended on 2x4s. And I was curious if this is either your or the previous owner's handiwork, whether that kind of attention or lack of attention to detail is going to be done with a heater.
Well, that was done by the previous owner.
But you are gonna hire a contractor, a heating contractor to install it?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I wouldn't attempt to do something like that myself. I want everything to be to code because I don't want any problems in the future if I try to sell.
So does he apply for the permit, David, or does the contractor?
The contractor.
Okay.
And you are only gonna put one heater in, and that's in your smaller vehicle garage area, not the RV garage portion.
Well, it's all one large garage.
Okay,
How close is the gas?
Excuse me?
How close is the gas line?
Oh, there's a gas line right behind the adjacent wall. Where the heater would go.
Okay.
There's a utility room right behind that.
Heater here, utility rooms over here. So it's coming here, stub somebody. To get to the other.
I have a question for regional. What is the clearance between this heating unit and the storage of the boxes and stuff that I see in that area? Do you have a minimum clearance that you require?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, John Welton Regional Building. So clearance to combustibles, that's actually going to be a requirement that will be in the manufacturer's specific installation specifications.
Great.
So that's something that our inspection staff will check once they're out on site. As far as clearance to combustibles in that particular case, we're only as good as the specific inspection visit that we're out for. The other side, as far as clearance requirements for just general code requirements, that's going to be 30 inches from that installed fixture. So at a minimum, we're going to have 30 inches of clearance to any other obstructions for that heating unit. But as far as outside of that, for clearance to combustibles, that's going to be very specific to that individualized fixture per the instructions.
Do you understand what we're referring to here, Mr. Spock?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Cahill here, I had a question. Who at what point, who and at what point would the inspector give notification of ground clearance to the bottom of the furnace relative to the opening of the garage door height? Relative to being hit with a vehicle that might be going in requiring some sort of a deterrent like a bollard, which I was told to install in my own floor to prevent anything from smacking my low-hanging heater, which was just below the height of the garage door.
John Welton Regional Building, that normally would not occur until the mechanical final when the unit was installed. So we're And a lot of times we can actually do the rough and final at the same time, but technically at the rough, the unit may not be installed if we're just looking at the gas rough or the vent. So that would be done at the mechanical final.
So it's almost at the very end. And then had to come back and retrofit. Okay. So that's nothing to interfere with us from providing, granting a variance.
Nick, anything else?
Yeah, and that heater where he's looking to install it is on the side of the door, so. No, it's a long way back, it's 25 back.
Way back in the.
Patrick?
Oh.
Regional, John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. John Welton Regional Building, just one further clarification for the applicant, just with a pending approval or disapproval, I just need to know how to note this properly on the address for future permitting. Your request to omit garage insulation, that is in its entirety, correct? That is wall insulation, ceiling insulation, and slab insulation?
I believe just slab. It does have wall and ceiling insulation already.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted a clarification based on how that was worded.
That's fine.
And the R value, Mr. Cahill here again, the R value would be listed someplace in previous permit application.
John Welton Regional Building, not necessarily a previous permit application. Once this permit is applied for, we are going to request an IECC form for this project. So we'll need that wall and ceiling insulation listed on that IECC form. With this variance, if granted, then obviously we'll already have the notes in there to show that we're going to do a reduction from R10 to not required on the slab insulation. But we will need the owner or contractor, whoever is filling out that IECC form for this permit, to show us what that wall and ceiling R value is.
And what iteration of the code would that be enforceable by?
That's going to be the 2023 Pikes Peak Regional Building Code, which would be the 2021 Energy Code.
Now, Mr. Spock, when your house was built, it says you had a CO in 2005, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Are you the original owner?
No, I've only been here 3 years.
Okay. Somewhere in your house to have complied with code at that time, they're typically in a water heater closet, furnace closet, something like that. Should have been a form that listed your ceiling insulation value and your wall insulation value. Have you seen that form
No, I haven't.
Sometimes the attic is in the attic.
or in the attic?
When they blow it, they put a sticker up there.
Yeah.
2005, it's hard to say.
But in wall bat insulation, there may be a problem asking for a variance at this point without having the knowledge of what's in your wall. Because if they're going to be issuing a permit based upon today's code, back in 2005, it was less requirement. You may be behind the 8 ball, so giving a variance now without knowing that particular aspect may be a little bit premature.
But we're giving a variance to that code.
Only for the floor. On the wall,
okay.
the wall, John just said it's gonna
No.
be to 2021,
He wants to know what it is. He didn't say that it had to comply to that.
but he may have to be coming back for another one.
John Welton Regional Building, depending on what the existing R values are, they could work or they could not. Under the 2021 Energy Code, we do have a little bit of a path for a reduction of R values on attached and detached garages. So we are allowed to reduce that R value in the wall down to R13, and we are allowed to reduce that ceiling R value down to 24. For all case in point, assuming 2x4 exterior wall construction at a minimum.
I would think so, sure.
I think it's probably 2x6. I would be surprised if it's not in 2005 where you were built. But it's easy to check. You can easily.
But even if it's 2x4. And
That's an R13.
And it has cavity insulation of bad insulation, that's an R13.
Do you have an attic access?
That's
In-
to do with there.
Yes,
Yeah, there's one shown in one
Okay.
of the photographs.
Have you been up there?
Yes, I've been up it.
How much insulation's there?
About this deep.
Oh, okay,
It's not it's just, it's blown insulation up there.
that's great, great. I move approval for this.
Here a second.
I'll second it.
We have a
Okay.
motion to approve this variance.
We may
Any
be,
further discussion?
we may be seeing you again, but.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
And good luck.
Oh, we can't enforce this. We can't force you to do it. But we do suggest to everybody that puts a gas heating appliance in a enclosed area like a garage, please add a carbon monoxide detector. We don't want your wife coming out there calling you for supper and you're unconscious under a car because you were overcome by carbon monoxide.
Sure, that's a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. That's good. Now back to our item number 7. Unfinished business, update on building permit valuation comparison. Burgess.
Mr. Chair, thank you. So at our last meeting, I committed to compiling the data for comparative valuations. You were interested in seeing how the other smaller jurisdictions that Pikes Peak has authority over, how they compare. So I thought I would get you up to speed on where we're at today. So back in September, I told you that Woodland Park valuations totaled almost $47 million. Since that time, we've issued another permit for student housing, and we've had other commercial and residential permits go through. So now, from that 47 million back on September 21st, as of yesterday, we're just over 68.7 million in valuations.
How does that compare to previous years?
I did not do that data, but I can tell you that it's going to be huge because there's student housing. I would imagine that you're going to have some pretty high valuations back when the auditorium and the parking garage were constructed out there at Paris as well. So in comparison, I'll start with the highest valuations first for the smaller jurisdictions. So the City of Monument, they did 235.6 million. City of Fountain, they did 116.1 million. Manitou Springs, 5.8 million. City of Palmer Lake, 4.6 million. And Green Mountain Falls, 1.4 million. So in addition to our last meeting, I reported that Pikes Peak Regional's total permit valuation was at about $2.5 billion at that point. Since then, they're at about 3.46 billion.
So John, permit activity has obviously picked up. I know you guys had a big increase in permits in June, right before the new RVD went into effect. And July was a little slow, but obviously it's picked up.
John Welton Regional Building, I would say it's relative
Oh.
as far as whether it picked up or not. Obviously, it depends on what we're comparing it to. Last year, around July, is when we saw the decline start on the residential permitting side. That's when the Fed started adjusting interest rates. So that has a direct impact on especially single family home permits. We have seen commercial permits stay strong, not necessarily at the level that we might have seen them in 2020, 2021, but they are staying strong. Compared to last year, we have had some months where the residential permitting side was definitely higher. So just before the code change in June, that was a big month. And we've had a couple of months where we exceeded 200, if you will. Seems like the average is staying around 150 to 160. So the other thing that we have seen is a little bit of an uptick on the residential alteration permits. So interest rates go up, people decide to stay in the houses they're in a little longer, but they've got some money burning a hole in their pocket, so they decide to do that renovation on their existing home. So from a valuation standpoint, I think Woodland Park is in a little bit different position right now because a lot of the other smaller jurisdictions, you don't see multifamily projects occurring, such as the student housing projects up here at Karis. And then some of the other projects such as a change of occupancy or a new restaurant coming to town. So a lot of the much smaller jurisdictions haven't seen that. But all in all, Woodland Park is doing very well on the permitting side, especially compared to some other years. Valuation wise, would it compare back to, 2014, 15, maybe 16? Probably not, because we had some very large apartment projects going on at that point, along with the new auditorium at Karis and the parking garage. So this year definitely would be a good year, I would say, to compare to other jurisdictions that were comparable size, but maybe not a record-setting valuation year once you throw in a year such as thinking 2015 was when we did the auditorium, parking garage at Karis, and we're still finishing up some of the apartments over in the just south of downtown, if you will.
Yeah, Trail Ridge.
Yeah. Thank you. I was trying to remember the name. Trail was coming to mind, but I couldn't think of the last words.
Right. Thanks for that input.
So as far as other activity goes, general development permit applications. This year we've processed 375 so far. That ties us with back in 2021 at 375. Normally we hover around 300 in the couple of years prior to that. When I first started here, we were usually doing just under 300. So yeah, we have a lot of applications going on. Of course, that includes everything from decks, sheds, fences to apartment projects, site plan reviews, conditional use permits, things of that nature. But yeah, it's been quite busy. So busiest since I've been here.
Do we have apartment buildings coming online?
We do have some projects coming up, yes, sir. Pines at Stone Ridge is one that comes to mind. There's a Pines at Tamarack, I believe. I might have that name wrong, but yeah, we've got a couple of projects that will be coming out with apartments. So that will be large valuation years as well.
And at our last meeting, you mentioned you were transferring from an old permit database computer system to a newer one. Have you completed that transition?
We have not. So we're trying to get we're coordinating with Teller County right now so that we can get the GIS module to work. But other than that, staff's been undergoing some training in-house. I'm pretty impressed with it so far. I think it's going to work real well. We hope to get that online, in 2024, if everything falls into place. But yeah, we've been working with it a little bit, getting some training on it, and I think it's going to be very effective once we get it up and running and get the bugs worked out.
But you're still using the old one.
We are.
Okay. Do you need any more bubble gum?
Some double bubble would probably help.
Okay.
Is that the whole thing's together?
Yeah.
I can give you some duct tape.
Karen's been kind enough to also provide us with some floaties because we're so busy and understaffed. So just to keep us afloat.
Okay.
David, this board, when does it come due?
January, I think.
January.
Well, but I think I have another year of commitment, don't I?
You do. I don't have that roster. I can get that for you though, Mr. Carpenter. In fact,
Well, I just wondered,
read that.
don't you have another year too?
We each have 2 years.
Excuse me. The voice
ahead.
from above. Yeah. Good afternoon. This is Karen Schmink. Dory, several weeks back was sending out emails to board members on all of our various boards whose term was up in January. So if you had not received an email from her, you're not up for, reappointment, but we will double check that for you all.
So you and I, Jeff
Smith,
Smith and Jeff Cahill all were reappointed by council last January.
well, that's what I was asking. Jeff wasn't there with us, so, but you started a 2 year last year, Jeff, right? In January.
He
Year ago.
did his first and beat us to the punch.
Okay.
And then you and I and Jeff Smith were reappointed the same night on the second council meeting of January.
Did you get an email then?
You're asking me to remember 11 months ago?
That's right.
And Mr. Chair, John Walton has been so kind as to pull up the stats from 2015. He'd be happy to share that with the board at this time.
Way to go on your phone.
Go
Impressive.
ahead, John, you got the floor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Gotta love technology and real-time access to data. So Woodland Park's valuation for projects permitted in 2015. 16, a little over 16 million, so 16.1 million, if you will. I'm gonna round off if that's okay.
Here's a penny.
Calendar year 2016. 31.8 million. Calendar year 2017, 24.4 million. Calendar year 2018, 62.8 million. Calendar year 2019, 18.2 million. Calendar year 2020, 23.1 million. 2021, 25.6 million. 2022, 29 million. And 2023, drum roll,
68.7 million.
70.1 million.
70.1 since yesterday.
All right.
So all the way back to 2015, if you will, almost 8 total calendar years, 301.5 million in permit valuation.
Sounds like Karis is driving a large part of that.
Okay, any further unfinished business? Dave, thank you for the research.
I apologize for interrupting. I can answer your appointments question. I was able to pull that document up. Patrick, your term expires in January 1st, 2024. So please fill out another form and get that to the city clerk so she can get you on the agenda if you haven't already done that. Otherwise, everybody else's term expires in 2026. January 2026.
Wait. I thought it was 2 years.
3 years.
It's a 3 year term.
Yes, sir.
I did it for you, Dave, just so you know.
And I appreciate that.
All right.
And Patrick, we would really appreciate your continued expertise.
I'm gonna get on to that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Karen, thanks for looking that up. John, thanks for your research. I'm gonna move to item 8, new business, none. We kind of already covered open discussion. Took Dave's action item and ran with it, various areas. Anything else? Anybody?
You didn't want to talk about the inspector leaving or anything like that? You mentioned it.
John Welton Regional Building, I can briefly mention it. Our inspector that we had assigned, even though he covered some other areas for us to Woodland Park, Eric Ramirez has taken another position with another company. So his last day with the department was December 15th. We have a new inspector that we will be getting started up here, Doug Compton. He actually kind of cut his teeth up here last Friday, I believe, was his first day up here. So there will be a new face that everybody gets to look at on the building inspection side. Obviously, there's a little bit of a learning curve and some training that we're working through with him on for Woodland Park, and just making sure he's up to speed on some of the specifics as related to Appendix J, from the code modifications that we did back in June and July. So good news is we were already able to get somebody into that spot. And I already gave Mac a heads up, but in y'all's meeting on January, not sure the date, but
January 18th.
thank you,
Thank you,
Karen.
Karen,
For some reason, I was about to say the 19th, so January 18th. Karen is going to put a new business item on there. I'll be here for the meeting, but I'll also have Doug in attendance and just be able to introduce him directly to the board.
Has he been with regional for a while?
About 15 months now.
Okay, all right.
So he's been covering some pretty busy areas for us down the hill. But we feel like based on his experience prior to coming to RBD, he was a commercial home builder.
Commercial home builder.
Or I'm sorry, custom home builder.
I was like,
It starts with the C.
Yeah, well, let's say big homes,
All
might
right,
as well be a
okay.
commercial building.
Doug, what's his last name?
Compton,
Like California.
cannot confirm nor deny. So my plan is get him up here in January, introduce him to each of you directly, at the Board of Review meeting. And by that point, we'll have another few weeks under our belt, for some of this adjustment training.
Okay.
What else is on the agenda for the 18th besides? John and
unless we have another variance case come through, it's basically gonna be election of officers and approval of these meeting minutes.
okay,
Unless there's something you would like for me to follow up on.
no. Okay. Anything else? I'll just go make the rounds. Patrick? Good.
I'm good.
Okay, I'm good. Dave?
I'm good, thank you, Mr. Chair.
John? All right, folks, I hereby declare this meeting adjourned.
I'll second it.
I found out after studying Robert Rules of Order a little bit, I can just declare it adjourned and I don't have to have.
You don't have to have a motion? Okay, good. I'll remember that.
Yes.
Nathan, right? Freshman? First year.